nobody remembers what happens in this film. Just like you said, it's a dream.
Hello and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
And I'm Nick. Today we are talking about Paprika, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. Paprika is a Japanese animated film about dreams. And yeah, we're going to get into all of that. I'm actually just quick thought after watching this for the first time. I'm pretty sure that I'm dreaming and that the movie is one big dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. I don't know if reality even exists. My head hurt the whole time. But
Truth
apparently,
and fiction, baby.
What's that?
Truth and fiction, baby.
It's crazy. It's unbelievable. It's truly insane. For its time, very renowned for the animation. The animation's insane and so cool and so well done.
I would argue, it looks better than some stuff we see today. It's crazy.
It does. Yeah, it truly holds up. And what I appreciate about it is the runtime, too. It's an hour and a half. And it's just, crazy fast-paced.
For those who don't know, Nick is not... He's not anti-animation. He's just not... It's not necessarily, his flavor of choice. And on this podcast, I have definitely subjected him to quite a few animations. Thanks for being a good sport.
Sometimes Joe just, makes me do it. I don't have a choice. This didn't feel completely like one of those. I did have a choice, and I agreed. The hour and a half made it helpful. It was enjoyable, though, and truly insane. In my notes, I think 3 to 4 different times I have written... oh, wait, we're still dreaming. Because every time I thought we had left the dream, and then 20 minutes later, we're still there. And I'm just like, when do we leave? So that's Paprika. That's what Paprika is, right? And yeah, Joe told me
pulls
about
the rug out from under you quite a bit in that movie.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Joe's just seen this a couple times, and so I'm interested to see your thoughts the second time viewing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll get more into this movie later, but the first time I saw this movie, I think it was 2011. I was in college, and I had heard about it from a friend. We decided to take a look at it because I had heard, and we'll get into this too. I'd heard that there were similarities between this and Inception, and I was not prepared for this film. I don't think I knew I liked it the first time. I couldn't tell you what it is that I liked about it though, because looking back, when I rewatched it for this show, man, I feel like I didn't remember almost anything. It was almost kind of like when you try to recall a dream and you can't remember any of the details. I remembered the ending, and that was kind of it. So watching it a second and third time for this, I have a whole new appreciation for this film. It is. I knew I liked it. It is better than I remembered it being. Not that it is without flaws, but man, it is. It is I dare say, it is a brilliant piece of work. It is really, really well done. But,
Okay.
we do have a tradition on this show of the 15-second summary, in which one of us has to embarrass ourselves with trying to repeat the plot in a concise manner within 15 seconds. And it's Nick's turn to do it today. How we doing? How we feeling?
It's very unfortunate for me. This is gonna be terrible.
It really is. What an insane film to try and capture in 15 seconds.
It's not great. I have an idea of how I'm gonna handle this though. So whenever you're ready to kick
I'm
me off.
excited for the strategy. All right, we ready? 3, 2, 1. Paprika.
Paprika follows a doctor and scientists who have created this DC Minute device to help therapists go within dreams. The doctor has an alter ego named Paprika, and throughout the film, it's dream within a dream within a dream, so much that you forget what's going on in the film like it was an actual.
Time.
You're welcome.
You know what? We didn't get to the climax of the film, but honestly, I don't even think the climax... the climax is great. It's obviously necessary. But, if you were just trying to give me some bare bones, notes for this story, give that about a C, C minus. I think that works.
What?
I'll give you a C. I'll give you a C plus. You managed to get DC Mini in there.
It's at least a B, I mean,
it's definitely
whatever.
not a B. You didn't even get to the conflict. It's not a B.
No, nobody remembers what happens in this film, just like you said. It's a dream. The movie ends. You wake up from your dream and you completely forgot what happened because too much happens, and it's fine.
So let's recap it for real now.
Please.
um, I mean, would you like to?
No, absolutely not. This is your wheelhouse.
Um,
Give us the
sure,
real.
sure.
Give us the real.
So I love film noir. I love mysteries, right? And this movie is very much like an anime noir, in a way, where as you pointed out, Nick, we have this doctor. I believe she's supposed to be a psychologist who works at this firm. That has other psychologists, but also like an R&D department. Like they also have like sick scientific research going on with psychoanalysts. Uh, Including the DC Mini that you brought up, which allows people to share dreams with each other. And they can be in each other's dream. Our doctor has an alter ego, Paprika, that she unmasks herself and allows herself to be in these dreams. But the DC Mini is stolen. We don't know who has stolen it. But as this happens, the perpetrator is committing acts of terrorism by forcing dreams upon people. And it starts to blur the lines of reality and dreams and truth and fiction. And eventually, all hell breaks loose toward the end. And there is no line between reality and fiction until our heroine, Paprika, and actually um, Atsuko, the main heroine, they become one person and they save the day, right? And they bring us all to reality. And we all take a greater truth, appreciating what dreams can teach us. About sums it up 30 minutes later.
That's a much better summary than what I gave. Not gonna lie.
Dude, you were screwed from the start. 15 seconds is not enough to describe
Not even
Paprika.
close. Not even close. And just to correct you real quick, it was three different DC minis, right? Not just
Yeah,
one.
three DC minis. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're kind of like going throughout trying to find all three of those, which maybe that's the reason why I wrote down, wait, they're still dreaming multiple times, because technically they had to find three of those, and they had to go into dreams to do that, I believe, if I remember correctly, kind of.
This is correct. Yes.
You wanted to touch on your different view from the original time you watched it and to now,
Mm,
right? Because it's
yeah.
been, I don't know how many years in between your original watch and this recent one.
I care not to date myself that way. But
Fair.
it's been, let's say it's been over 10 years. But in any case, yeah, I think the first time I watched this film, I definitely saw it as a very creative film, right? I think like, my first surface glance of it was like, okay, cool. It's a movie about dreams, and we get to see the wackiness of what it would be like to enter each other's dreams and some of the nightmarish terror that comes with that, right? Um, what I did not appreciate, really, and I think like I think this is the bigger takeaway from the film, is what what the director Satoshi Kon uh, is trying to tell us through this film, that all of us, like as adults, we all wear these masks in our day-to-day lives, right? And we suppress these happy this happy imaginative joy of like childhood, right? As we carry on with our day-to-day lives, as we have to be these adults, right? And I think one of the beauty of this film is showing us this appreciation that we take away from dreams, but not just dreams, but from film itself. And man, I did not really draw the connection of what he was trying to say between dreams and film, that there is no difference between dreams and film. Films are just a physical manifestation of our dreams. This is like the whole point of like Konakawa's character. Konakawa is our detective of the film. He teams up with Paprika and Atsuko to help find the dream terrorists, right? And Konakawa is receiving psychological help from Paprika, as it were, and he keeps having this reoccurring nightmare, right? Um, the movie starts with showtime, right? And it's this circus, it's this escapism where people are sitting down and they are ignoring reality and they want to come see something that's going to distract them, right? What we don't know at the time is this is a dream. And Konakawa, we find out, he tells us that he doesn't know film. He doesn't pay attention to film. We find out that's a lie. This is something that he's repressed and buried. He was a filmmaker, right? I love his backstory, that he was a filmmaker before he was a police officer. before he was a detective. Um, but he and his best friend, he was jealous of his best friend, and he couldn't pursue the route of a filmmaker. He felt he was too cowardly, and then his friend died, and he felt like he had let him down. So he like locked away like film and the childhood joy that he felt with that. But those feelings of guilt start manifesting in his dreams, and they start playing out like films, um, until this all gets resolved through the plot of this movie, right? As he listens to Paprika, who's telling him that perhaps this person who's assaulting you in your dreams is this other you, and the other him is his friend, right? Um, I think the ending of this film is like it has one of the best last lines that I can think of in a film. When he's done, when all is said and done, right? They've saved the world, and Paprika tells him, "Hey, you should you should go see this movie. It's called Dreaming Kids." What's really cool, Nick, is when he goes to the marquee, you see a bunch of films up on the stand, and they are other films that Satoshi Kon had directed. Perfect Blue, Tokyo Godfathers.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, Dreaming Kids is not one of those films, though. It's a fictional film. However, apparently before Satoshi died, there was a film that he was going to direct called Dreaming something. It might have been Dreaming Teenagers. I can't remember the exact title, but it felt like it was supposed to be a reference to this movie, Dreaming Kids. Konakawa approaches the marquee and he orders a ticket, but it's what he says. He says, "One adult, please." And I freaking love that line of this man who's like buried like his feelings of childhood and he wants nothing to do with film because of what it represents for him. And then finally like unmasking himself and like letting this like inner child come out in this adult body. This is something that they keep saying, right? Like adults, children in adult bodies. There's that character, Tokita. He's the creator of the DC Mini, right? And he's described as a genius in an adult's body, but like really he's just a giant kid, right? And a lot of them end up embracing that that philosophy that he has, this like childlike wonder. And Konakawa, his acceptance of that is going to the movies, buying a ticket, saying "one adult, please." Love it. Freaking amazing. Love that. Like this acceptance of like childhood and adulthood coming together. Like
Yeah,
freaking. I love that.
that was a that was a really great summary of just like the symbolism in the whole film, and that is one
Mm,
of the cooler parts for me as well. Watching it for the first time is that you really the movie does such a good job of like making you get it, right?
yeah.
That we are essentially like just like these characters who are, in one way, shape, or form suppressing something that from our childhood that we want to do, right? And we all have our living our lives, and maybe there's like room for us to be more open or be more childlike with what our dreams are. And so that was a really cool moment in the film. Um, and also
Also
worth
Konakawa just
mentioning,
rocks. He's just a cool
yeah,
character.
yeah, but also worth mentioning that Satoshi Kon based this on a book, right? This
Hmm.
story on a book. And the cool part about doing the research here is that apparently the book is so insane, as you can imagine, that like people thought it was like not possible to create like a film version of this or like like it wasn't possible to put this to film or
Oh
to
my
TV or
gosh.
anything. And so like
The book's
I
that crazy.
so yeah, like Satoshi Kon was just like obviously was like, well, I'll take the challenge and did it, and it ends up being one of the more renowned animations of all time, and obviously has a great following now that it's
Mhm.
celebrating its 20th anniversary, and we're still talking about it that many years later. So
Yeah,
super cool little detail there.
it
Um,
is. Dude, I gotta read the book.
I know.
That's it. To think that the movie is tame, that's crazy.
I mean, I would imagine the movie's tame compared to the book, right? If that's what they said about the book. So, I mean, we'll see. It would be interesting to unpack that, which maybe, we can do
Mm.
that at a later date. But yeah, you mentioned Inception at the beginning, and there are some similarities there. Do you have anything else you want to mention before we kind of go
Just some
to that
just some
section.
quick just some quick visuals that I was just like so impressed with. I freaking there are so many like little things that happen throughout the film that like you can only do in dreams, right? And
Hmm.
I think the movie like takes advantage of that. It takes the idea of the limitless potential of dreams and just runs with it. And I think it does it such a great job with that vehicle. One of my favorite like dream things that they do is like when all hell is breaking loose and like the line between reality and dream no longer exists. Uh, they're running away from the giant Himuro doll, right? And Paprika's like, no time to think, and like she just runs into a television. Right, like it's a news broadcast on television. She just runs into the television, and then Atsuko and the old man like jump in with her, and they shoot out of the camera, like the news camera. They shoot out of the news camera. I loved that. That was so freaking cool. This is just such a creative solution to that problem.
Yeah, it's incredibly creative.
Hmm.
Every step of the way. I just like the movie's just crazy, man. Like I honestly don't. I just couldn't believe how many like different dreams we hopped in and out of.
And there's so I feel like there's so much symbolism. I feel like there's so much symbolism to the film too that I probably have not picked up on that I'm probably overlooking. Like the third time I was watching it, I realized Paprika, Atsuko's like alter ego, who is like her own character, right? Like at one point, like
Yeah,
Atsuko and Paprika get to meet, which is great. When Atsuko's like, "Why are you arguing with me? Aren't you part of me?" And Paprika, responds with like, "Have you ever thought that maybe you're part of me?" Like I love that dialogue, right? But like one thing that I didn't pick up on until the third time I was watching it was um, Paprika has multiple transformations into mythological creatures, specifically mythological creatures. She becomes a mermaid at one point. She becomes uh, the green fairy. She becomes the what is it? The griffin? Or no, sorry, the sphinx. She becomes the sphinx, and then she's also Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, which is what Goku from Dragon Ball is based on. Um, remember when she comes like flying in on the cloud with like the power pole, like freaking awesome. So like I'm not sure what to take away from that, but like no other person really does that except for like maybe the main villain.
it's interesting that
But
you mentioned some symbolism and some similarities between like who she changes into in other like mythology and things like that. Because,
mm,
and this is not the exact same thing, but like there are two other moments in the film with two other characters where I was like, wow, this reminds me of this other story, right? And there's the guy in the wheelchair,
mm,
um, is who I think is the CEO of the
Seijudo.
company.
Yeah, Seijudo.
Yeah,
Seijudo.
yeah, and he looked like just reminded me of Professor Xavier from X-Men. Like,
He does kind of look a lot like him.
but
If
then
Professor
he,
Xavier was a horrifying villain.
yeah, but then correct me if I'm wrong too. Him later, he ends up having like he ends up being he ends up being the bad guy, and he has like a whole other body on the back of his head,
Mm.
which then reminded me of Professor Quirrell from Harry Potter, and I'm just like, what? Like, now, like obviously these are just like these are totally coincidences, right? Like,
Well,
there's no
well, well,
evidence
maybe, well, maybe they're
anywhere.
not because
What?
I feel like
Yeah,
the director would argue. So what did you just reference? You referenced comic book, you referenced television, and then you referenced film, right? Uh,
yeah.
Film is a huge part of this movie, and it seems like what Satoshi is saying here is that like the fine line between dreams and film isn't right. Like they are the same. Like it's all connected. We do share our dreams, right? Like film is DC minis, right? We get
Well,
to experience each other's dreams through film, and we get to like make those shared connections. So like maybe there is a shared connection there, Nick, like on a subconscious level. Like who knows?
and this is a great transition into the Inception part of the conversation
Ah, yeah. It is,
because
yeah,
it's
it is
we have
time.
to mention that like the Nolan brothers and Chris specifically, they have never directly stated that this movie was a direct inspiration for Inception,
Right.
right?
Right.
Nolan's been on the record saying that Inception's direct inspiration comes from dreams that he experienced when he was in college.
Hmm.
Your point about how dreams can maybe be similar or blend realities or blending dreams between people and groups of people or whatever, maybe kind of leads us to this point where just because there are a handful of really, really close similarities between this movie and Inception doesn't necessarily mean that there is any direct inspiration. There could
Mm.
have been um, similar dreams that happened between the creator of the original story, between Satoshi Kon, and then between the Nolans, right? And so it's a very interesting point you just made, and like
Hmm.
blends us perfectly into this Inception discussion because this
No.
movie, no one online talks about this movie and then doesn't bring up Inception. It's like it's so hard to not, based
Yeah.
on four scenes in particular that are so close. But we'll
Very
get to those in a
similar.
second. I think you had another point.
I do, but I do want to say first, when I was looking at different reviews for Paprika, and someone said this sentiment, and like I want to put it out there because I agree with them. Um, it is kind of a shame that Paprika here in the West really only gets brought up when talking about the comparisons to Inception. And it's such a awesome and beautiful and at times horrifying film uh that it really deserves to stand in its own light, right? But like to your point, to what you're saying, it there are some scenes that's like it's just so hard to separate the two.
Right.
And I guess like what you were saying about those shared dreams, I think that's a really interesting point that maybe we don't appreciate enough, because there are common archetypes in dreams that many of us have throughout the decades, if not hundreds of years. One kind of dream that we all, or I shouldn't say we all share, but it's very common, is the teeth falling out of your mouth trope, right? Have you ever had that dream? Horrifying. I freaking hate that dream. But it's a
Yeah.
common dream, right? It's a common dream that many of us have had. One of my favorites that I've heard, it's kind of terrifying concept, but are you familiar with like sleep paralysis?
Yeah. For sure.
So the common thing that people see, well, common things that people see in sleep paralysis, a shadow that's hanging over their bed, or like an old woman. I forgot what the two other ones are, but like very common, horrifying things in
Yeah.
dreams that like we all seem to share, right? Um, and maybe there are some other uh, archetypes, right? Other commonalities in dreams that manifest their way into film. To Satoshi Kon's point, films are just dreams manifesting into reality, right? Um, so it shouldn't be that surprising, I guess, that the two dream movies that we're referencing have some similarities to them. I'm not defending some of these similarities because they are, man, on the nose.
Yeah.
But let's give the man the benefit of the doubt here.
I like that. And to just speak on what those handful of similarities are, um, I've got four that are highlighted. The first two are probably the most like to me spot on.
Mm,
The first one being like the gravity defying hallways, if you will, right? Where the detective in Paprika finds himself in a hallway and his perspective kind of shifts, right? And the room starts to kind of turn and he's kind of like having to walk on walls and things like that. Inception, there's a scene where there's like a zero gravity fight in the hallway and it's like spinning and it's like a hotel hallway. It looks the hallway looks so similar. Granted, it's a hotel hallway. You can only draw that a certain way, but like, but both times like there's kind of like a circular rotation to the room and the character is having to walk on walls and they're heading towards an elevator in both of those scenes as well.
mm.
Super like you see both of those side by side and you're like, who stole it from who? Who dreamed it first? Um,
If
the
you if someone tells you, hey, uh, incorrectly, if someone ever said to you, Chris Nolan was inspired by Paprika, or Chris Nolan stole this from Paprika, and then you didn't say like what scenes you were talking about, you would pick up on that scene immediately. Like immediately, you would pick up on that one.
right. Another one that stood out to me when I watched it was the what I'll call like shattering realities. Um, Paprika at one point like literally like breaks the air, and it kind of like shatters, like it looks like if you like shattered a mirror. Um, in Inception, um, the architect, the female architect who's like learning how to create the dream towards, I guess maybe like the first like part of the film. Um, there's a very specific scene where she like shatters the mirror as well, and you essentially like exposes like the rest of the dream world. It's like so similar the way that they both shatter. Paprika's like shattering the air. In Inception, it's more like shattering an
Yeah.
actual mirror. But it's so
Hmm.
it's so similar that when I saw it in Paprika, I was like, oh, that scene is like in Inception. Um, so those are the two that like really stand out to me. Um,
Hmm.
there's like more of like a concept about like elevators as gateways. Like this is really, I think this is more prominent in Inception. The elevator plays like a really big role in Inception, where they're picking different floors and it's different memories. Um, that didn't like stand out as much to me, but there is like an elevator sequence in Paprika that is similar. Um,
To that point, Nick, I like the way that you worded that about like uh otherworldly, like this otherworldly sequence with like elevators, because that's a really good way to think about it. Because it's not just like necessarily a dream thing, or like maybe it is, because The Matrix does something very similar with that at one point too. And this is a movie or a movie
yeah,
series about reality and unreality. Hell,
yeah,
Morpheus, I think, is even known as like the god of dreams in Greek mythology, right?
yeah,
And like
yeah.
the direct reference to dreams.
And I think Nolan's actually on the record as saying that The Matrix is a slight inspiration for certain things in Inception too. So like that
Yeah,
particular elevator scene might actually be more about a Matrix
a
comparison
Matrix
rather than
thing.
Paprika in this case, right? So that
Hmm.
makes a lot of sense too. That's a good call out. Um, the last one that I have that's really kind of worth mentioning. This is a little bit more open ended, I think. Like it's just like the shifting cityscapes, right? Like in
Hmm.
Paprika, the city's going all sorts of ways, like and then obviously the idea or the similarity with Inception is like the folding of, I think it's Paris onto itself, um, in the dream and Inception. That really cool scene towards the first part of the film. Um, there's some similarities. I think that's the maybe the weakest case if you want to like make a case for it, right? But worth mentioning with the similarity there. Uh, but yeah, pretty cool. I agree. A little, it's a little tough that the western part of the world can't talk about Paprika separately. Um, so I'll take the hit for that one on this podcast. That one's on me, everyone.
Thanks for being a martyr. No, I think you broke all of that down really well as far as those similarities go. I mean, especially the hallway scene. It really
Yeah,
just echoes Paprika. Um, I'd be willing to put out one more, Nick. I think it's not necessarily like a visual that that is like in your face. I think that this connection is a lot more subtle, but I to the point that I was making earlier, I don't think it's necessarily like you could say, "Oh, he got this idea from Paprika." I think it speaks more to uh, dreams and the connection to film itself. I think both movies actually make this connection. Inception does it in a much more subtle way, whereas Paprika like really hammers that message home, right? With characters actually talking about film and the creation of film, right? But in Inception, the characters, like the team, like the heist team, right? Or reverse heist, they're pulling a reverse heist, right? They're trying to put something back. Or not back, but they're trying to put something,
yeah,
you get what I'm saying.
yeah.
But anyway, the heist team, uh, they, I've seen breakdowns of the heist team and how really they're all different stand-ins for like jobs or positions in the making of a movie. And like that's what they're doing. They're making a movie in somebody else's head. Killian Murphy's character is just the audience for this. Cobb is the director. Saito is the executive producer who funds everything, right? Oh my gosh, Ellen Page's character. She's what is her name? It starts with an A.
Or
Um,
Ariandi or something.
Ariandi. Ariandi. I knew I wasn't going to remember that. I knew it started with an A. That's all I could remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm
She's
pronouncing it wrong, but it's fine.
she's the designer, right? So like you could address that as like the scene creator, right, or the costumer, or the editor, right? Um, uh, oh my God, what is Can't believe I forgot his name. Guy who plays Bane in Dark Knight Rises.
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy. He's the con artist. He's the actor, right? So like everyone like has these like jobs in a movie. Heck, when they're talking to Saito about Inception, it's kind of a pitch. They're doing it like a movie pitch
Yeah.
of what they could do.
Yeah.
So like it's and the director Cobb, right? Just to really hammer that point home, if you stand Leonardo DiCaprio, or at least his Cobb character, next to Christopher Nolan, they look almost exactly alike. And like that's not a coincidence. Like he is the director of the heist, right? So like it's much more subtle, right? But that connection of like dreams are film is very much there in both films.
Yeah. Ah, that's such a great call out. And now I'm gonna have to go watch Inception. Yeah.
For
That's all
sure, for
that.
sure.
That's all
It
that
is
made me
it is
do.
about that time.
Love it. Um, I've got nothing else. What do you have? Anything?
Just Paprika is a really cool film. There's so much that we didn't talk about that we probably could have. Call outs on like psychological archetypes, like your shadow self, and how like Paprika and Atsuko. Paprika is the shadow self of Atsuko. I think you could make an argument that Sijiro, the main villain, I think he's a shadow for Konakawa, and how they both have these like dormant childlike desires and they have to walk around in these responsible adult bodies, right? They just play out those childhood desires in different ways, one light, one dark. That's a whole thing at the end, right? The whole light and dark thing, man and women, light and darkness. And like we don't get a resolution until the shadow self of Paprika unites with like the light of Atsuko, right? And they eat the darkness. There's so much symbolism, I think, in this film that's so much fun to unpack. And I would love to hear what other people think about this. So please, if there's something we didn't touch on, drop a comment. I would love to hear people's takeaways from this film because there's so many takeaways.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. And with that, stay tuned. We will be talking about some Nolan films next, leading up to the Odyssey release here in July. So we're going to have some Nolan festivities, if you will, coming up. And like Joe said, let us know in the comments what you think about Paprika. Let us know if we miss anything. Shoot us a like and a subscribe here on YouTube. And until next time, friends.
May the review be with you.
Peace.
May the review be with you.
Peace.